Hello, everybody. This is Jackie Luqman.
Met the Shahid Luqman.
And what?
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I cut you off. What?
No, I said welcome everybody out there in Luqman Nation Land, the most dangerous show on social media, the most terrifying show on social media, as we know because where is Jackie Luqman's old page? I had a lot of you hit me up on Messenger.
That was
and
scary.
it was a surprise to me because I mean here it is like 2:00 in the morning. And you know, and I'm sort of a night owl, so I'm sitting up here like, why? You know, I want to use Messenger, and I'm getting all these notifications.
Yeah.
In Messenger.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's Jackie? What happened to Jackie's page? Jackie has disappeared on Facebook. Did she delete her account? What has happened? We must find out. So I don't know because you know, Jackie and I sort of, you know, when it comes to Facebook, we kind of like do our own thing. And I said, well, she never said anything to me about page deletion. So, but we found out that it had nothing to do with Jackie deleting her page or going up in the Sahara Mountains or any kind of sabbatical. It had everything to do with Facebook and what we believe is the beginning of Facebook's tyrannical reign. Well, I won't say reign, but their tyrannical way they do things.
Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden, one day, what was it? Wednesday, I tried to log on, as I usually do at lunch, you know, at work, see what's going on in the Facebook universe.
Well, as you say, peek your head in.
Peek my head in, yeah, you know, and then I get this error message popping up on my screen saying, you know, on my Facebook page saying, you need to confirm your identity.
Right.
We're going to send you a 6-digit code to confirm your identity. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. But they kept sending the code to my old phone number. And I was like, okay, I'm sure I changed my number on my profile. So I tried to reset my password. Now, Facebook, I know they have the correct number because they kept sending the password reset code to my current number.
Oh, so they do have it.
So they do have it.
Right.
It is on my profile. It is the default number on my profile. I haven't had the old number for a couple of years. So I try to reset my password. I actually do reset my password.
Right.
They send the password reset code to my new number. And as soon as I would reset my password, then that confirm your identity alert would come up, and they would note it there, and the notification said we're going to send an identity confirmation code to the old number.
Wow.
And they just kept doing it. So, and I looked on all of the different blogs or you know, tech help, because you know, Facebook has no customer service.
Of course not.
Facebook has no customer service. The only customer service you are ever going to get from Facebook is when somebody blocks you or when they notify you when you have violated their community standards. And they only do that when you're black or you're not a white supremacist. And yeah, so there's nobody to call at Facebook. You send an email all you want to. They don't respond. So apparently what happened on Facebook's end was they deactivated my account. They either temporarily restricted it so that people can't see it, or they just completely deactivated it.
Right.
Deactivated it. So all of my friends, everybody on my friends list, they were wondering, well, not everybody, but a lot of people were wondering, where'd Jackie go?
Yeah.
You know, what did somebody piss her off so bad that she just shut down her Facebook account and went on a sabbatical? So, but no, I did not. It was not anything I did whatsoever. I am completely convinced that this is, as somebody earlier said, that this is another salvo in Facebook's attack on leftists.
Yeah. Well, we said this before that we're witnessing things to come. We believe with Facebook really becoming part of this corporatocracy a way of being part of this whole fascist corporatocracy, and being that and helping them to limit dissent, and to and basically to limit dissent, and those type of conversations. Mark Zuckerberg has said, I believe, like a year or two ago, when they were saying that Facebook was being too political. And he said that he wanted to go back to the old days of sharing dinner and puppy tails and what your cat did this morning, all the sharing photos. He wanted to go back to that.
Right.
And so we're witnessing this thing here. But just to put it in context, before they basically wiped your page off, your first page, you were thrown in what we call Facebook jail.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah. Somebody actually reported. I had one of my patented typical heated exchanges with somebody who, and usually I don't have too much problem with disagreeing. I don't mind disagreeing with people, and I don't mind people disagreeing with me. What I don't like, and what I need to learn how to respond better to, you're actually great at this, but I'm not as good at it. I don't respond to people who are dismissive of especially our history, the history of Black people, the history of Native people, the history of oppressed people, and acting as if it's not a big deal, and then saying crazy stuff out of the side of their mouth, being slick. I don't respond. I know that if I am going to be a serious journalist, big old hint that I'm just not, but I know that I have to get better at dealing with people who do that, because people do that.
Yeah.
But I readily admit I'm not good at it. So I couldn't even tell you what the conversation was and who was with, but I know somebody reported me.
Yeah.
And because I got this, this thing, it was 2 posts. Now I do remember. And, it was 2 comments, and the person reported the 2 comments, and I got the message from Facebook. You have violated Facebook's community standards. Yeah. And then shortly after
we
that...
don't know what those standards are, right? Because it appears to me that those standards is whatever they want it to be.
Exactly.
Like they and I don't know, maybe you guys could, in the audience, could help us out, but I don't remember receiving from Facebook like this list of what violates their standards.
Yeah, they have it on one of their help pages somewhere, but it's so nebulous. It is so... clear.
What'd you say, nebulous?
Yeah, it's nebulous. It's like...
You gotta explain it to me, because, I don't have that much education. So you gotta break that down for me.
That is an inside joke. For those of you who don't, we are movie buffs, and that's why we are movie and TV show buffs. And that's why we're talking about what is shaping up to be one of our favorite TV shows tonight. But that is a reference from one of our other favorite TV shows.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David.
Just one of the funny. I mean, all the episodes are really funny, but one of the funniest episodes.
But one of the things before it slips, Chanel Pittman, our good
hey,
friend,
girl.
Our good friend Chanel Pittman, who's also a share badge.
Share.
She said this, and this makes sense. She said it's probably some more Patriot Act algorithmic. Policing BS. I'm gonna do a video on COPPA, COPPA, and such later. And I hope, and we can't wait to see that, Chanel.
Yeah.
There might be something, because Chanel brings up a good point about the Patriot Act. We don't know everything that's in there. We don't
Precisely.
know. We don't know what's all in the Patriot Act. And look, it hasn't been removed from the books. And it's still part of policy for the government.
Not only has it not been removed from the books, but the Democrats just voted, like last week, to recertify the Patriot Act. They just voted in favor of continuing the government surveillance, the massive program of government surveillance of American citizens. That's just.
The Democrats are such sellouts, man. And it should make us angry, but it's something that those of us who follow these things have known about the Democrats for so long. We had this conversation about Barack Obama today, you and I, and we were talking about, and please don't send us any hate email or something like that about what I'm about to say. Hear us out first. we were talking about, comparing some of the presidency. Now, look before I go into that, because those of you who've been following Jackie and I for a while and been following Luqman Nation, that we started out as big fans of Obama. We're not going to front, but then we've seen early on, as others have, what a fraud this guy was becoming and has become, and I think history has backed us up and bared us out.
Yeah,
we were talking about Barack Obama as compared to Trump, as far as far as militarism goes, and we were talking about under Barack Obama how he had this kill list. There was drones striking wedding parties all over the place.
26,000 bombs dropped from drones in 1 year alone.
Right. I mean, on his watch, Libya was destabilized and became a failed state. I mean, just so much, that happened with this so-called Nobel Peace Prize, change. We're supposed to get all this change. Well, we got change, all right. His failure, as I read in some editorial, I can't remember, but it's spot on. His presidency brought us Trump. So that shows you what a failure his presidency was. He brought us Trump. That Trump is a result of him, and it's not just racism. It's not just because people didn't like a black guy in office. It's the fact that Obama lied and he failed miserably, and now he shows his true colors by telling the Democrats, "Oh, you can't go too far left."
Right.
That's not good.
I mean, but if he had actually governed from a more left position, which is what the people wanted, which is what the Democratic Party's base has always wanted. The Democratic Party has not always been as right as they are now. They were farther left a while ago, some decades ago, and if he had just governed farther left, or then let's not even call it right and left, if he had just governed for the people, then Trump wouldn't have such an easy time undo. Well, let me change that. Trump isn't really undoing a whole lot of stuff he did. Trump is just being blatantly obvious and a lot less polite. Yeah. And a lot less sophisticated about
he's definitely less sophisticated.
About going even further with some of the really crappy right-leaning policies from the Obama and previous administrations. So,
well, we said that Trump's presidency is like his private life. It's just it's chaotic.
Yeah, you said
that. He just bumbles through.
It's just all over.
Yeah, he's all over the place. I mean, you have women over here. You have chaotic distractions over there. I mean, his presidency is like his life.
Yeah.
But being fair, and we try to be fair, is that Trump hasn't had his war. Let's look at that. When Trump became president, the first thing we're saying, oh God, we're going to war with Iran. Oh my God, we're going to, Trump is going to, cause a nuclear holocaust. Now, his presidency ain't over yet. but his presidency ain't over yet. So but at the same time, Obama was already droning people by this time in his first term. Not to mention. This big bailout of Wall Street. Right. Trump gave away $1 trillion to the rich. But that's what they do. And see, the thing of it is that you said that if Obama would have just governed the way that people wanted to, well, see, that's the thing. Our government doesn't govern based upon the people. They could care less about what we want. The Democrats, Republicans too, but they could care less about what we want. See, the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, in my view, is that the Republicans pretend to govern for their base. They have a great smoke and mirrors thing where they got these people who is their base to show up with the mega hats and all this other kind of stuff. They give them the illusion that they're governed from it. The Democrats are just like, screw you. We we ain't gonna govern for you. So screw you. So why lie?
Right. But be polite about it. But just be polite.
Yeah, you're not going to go to the Republicans. We know that, And if you sit home, so what? You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I think that the one point that I would disagree slightly on is that the Republicans are a lot less polite about. I mean, I think they are pretty blatant about who they really are going to go after. I mean, they'll tell their base, yeah, we're not going to do anything for those folks over here. But they'll tell their base, oh, but we're doing all this for you.
Right.
When really, they're stealing their stuff too.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're all in there to steal.
Exactly.
They're all in there to plunder. They look, they have plundered the resources, and this is on both sides. This is the elite. This is the wealthy elite. All those who, the Pelosi's and all them. They have plundered this country for so long. Is the fact that, I mean, I used to didn't want to believe the fact that this country can go broke. But resources are finite. I don't care if you do believe in MMT. I don't care if you believe in resources are finite. I don't care if they can print money. We know that even that is not the long-term solution. So they have plundered it so much now is that this country cannot afford these $1 trillion wars. They can't afford to keep on dumping things down the Pentagon. Sooner or later, the coffers are going to run dry. And they know it, and that's why they're getting all that they can. That's why that they're hoarding all that they can, and going to take it to their undercover bunkers somewhere in the West Virginia mountains and stuff.
Right.
Because then they know not only are the nuclear bombs coming after, but we're coming after.
But we're coming. We're going to come first.
Yeah,
we're going to come first. Finally, at some point, people in this country, and I do believe it's going to happen. It's taking longer than I think a lot of people are comfortable with, because I think people around the world, we see the uprisings in Haiti, we see the uprisings in Venezuela, the stalwart opposition to the U.S., the attempted U.S. coup in Venezuela. Those people ain't playing. Right. I mean, the uprisings in Bolivia, now in Chile. I mean, people who have been the targets of U.S. imperialism, global neoliberal policies, and already forced austerity. That's all. We don't know that that's what we're living under too. But those people in Latin American countries and people in African and Caribbean nations, they've been the crucible for these policies. The neoliberal experiment started in Chile.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
We did that brick by brick series on neoliberalism. We got to repost that thing. Now I'm really proud of that we did with Keir Hardie, because I think that lays out and explains what it is that people around the world are rising up against. But people around the world are looking at us like, y'all poor too.
Right.
Like y'all broke too. Yeah. How are y'all so satisfied? We don't understand. People around the world are like, when is America, when are the American citizens being oppressed by the same neoliberal world order and austerity policies going to rise up against their government that's doing this to us? And I think what a lot of people around the world may not be as cognizant of, and I know that we're not aware of, that we don't know that that's what this government has done to people here. We believe the narrative they tell us about, we have to put sanctions on Venezuela because their leader is a dictator.
Right.
We have to put sanctions on Cuba because their leader is an evil dictator. Meanwhile, you got people, we had a president who only ended up in the White House because of a Supreme Court case, who actually did not win the election. So, look, you talk about Russia all you want to. Russia didn't put George Bush in office. The Supreme Court did. He was not, okay, that's a whole nother. So, I mean, people around the world who understand what the problem is are not understanding why we don't get it.
Well, and they don't understand that Americans are afraid of the American police state.
Oh,
Look, the only reason why I believe that most Americans, besides the way that the politicians play us against each other, that's number one. Number two is also that America is the most heavily policed country in the world. Everybody has a police force. Metro has a police force. I mean, Capitol Police. I mean, I look, when I came to D.C., I was shocked at how many police agencies exist in the district.
Yeah.
Park police, every police.
U.S. Capitol Police.
You can't go anywhere. Housing police, all this police. So, I mean, they, America, the American society is, it's very intimidating because you understand that this, America has this intimidating police state. Now we know through Snowden and other things that came out, the surveillance state that they have.
Right.
The fact that we know and understand, when Chanel brought up about the Patriot Act, that we understand that we are the most heavily surveilled people on the planet. We don't understand that, but we're the most heavily surveilled, the most watched people on the planet. And the fact that police agencies all around, we're confronted with police agencies. So a lot of that plays in the fact that we just want to just be, stick our head in the sand,
right,
and not be noticed, and
right,
just keep on going about our business. But I do believe that the rumblings of change, the rumblings of protests are beginning to happen, that there are some folks who look at what's going on, looking at the way that the elites and stuff are really robbing us blind. The fact that, yes, it has been 2 generations or more that we haven't lived better than our parents.
Right.
And, and so, and the arrogance that the elite show towards our issues and our problems, the arrogance, and so I believe that those rumblings are coming, but it's not going to come from the top. It's coming from those who have nothing to lose.
Right.
Mainly poor whites, poor blacks, poor others who have nothing to lose. Some who have done prison time and be like, I could do it again. And so it's coming to that point where that's, I believe, where the change is going to come from.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, there has not been a revolution that has happened that really started from the top. That's not how revolutions work. I mean, I don't want to.
Except maybe the first Revolutionary War that started from.
Well, that's true. That did start from.
That was for their own interest.
But that was for that wasn't. See, this is why we are not in the streets. This is why American citizens are not in the streets, because we believe the lies that we're told about our own history. Look, if you don't believe that the Revolutionary War was not about actual independence and liberty read Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. The first 3 chapters will completely obliterate any idea that you might have that the Revolutionary War was about anybody's freedom but rich white landowning men
who wanted to maintain slavery.
That's all that was. So, I mean, look. Okay.
All right, yeah, okay. Now, the topic at hand.
Yes, before we get into talking about Watchmen, which we had to watch the last episode again, because there's so much stuff in that episode. Yeah. But look, we are really excited for everything that has happened for Luqman Nation. If you can tell, we are so well lit tonight. It's ridiculous.
Thanks to our Patreons.
Yep.
You guys that support us financially. I mean, thank you, because this is how we're able to get all of this equipment. And trust me, Jackie. Let me tell you something. She does not squander a dime. I mean, so you guys, cheap, man, let me tell you something. She doesn't squander a dime. I mean, she is like a pit bull in front of the what's that? The Federal Reserve Bank. I mean, you get close to a shekel. You know what I mean? So she protects you what you guys send us, man, and we're doing better for it.
We really appreciate your support and your contributions. One of the things we do with your contributions, whether you support us through Patreon, and if you do, we appreciate it. We thank you so much. And if you don't support us through Patreon, consider becoming a patron, because we not only are able to put together quality content, maintain the content on our page, and also upgrade our equipment so things look better and better and we look like we actually know what we're doing. But we also support our comrades locally and around the world who are also doing this work. So when you support us, we are able to do a whole bunch of other things. So consider becoming a patron, or consider, if you can't do monthly. By the way, patron support, we're only asking $3, $5, or $7. That's it. Might not seem like a lot, but if everyone in our viewing community contributes $3, $5, or $7 a month, that's a lot of support for a lot of people.
And I've got to add, that $3 is like a cup of a large cup of Starbucks coffee.
No, it's not.
What is it? It's more than that?
Dude,
What?
Starbucks coffee is like $6.
Well, there you go. You know what I mean? So if you drink Starbucks coffee, you know, or anything, $3. I mean, that if you could just for one day just say, well, I'm going to send this to Luqman Nation.
We would appreciate it.
And we really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So,
if you can't do Patreon, PayPal, Luqman Nation. You can find us on Patreon or on PayPal by searching for Luqman Nation. LuqManNation.
And we're going to pop up because ain't too many people got that last name.
Exactly. Come on. How many Luqmans do you know?
Right.
Two. These two right here.
Exactly.
All right. So, Watchmen.
Yeah.
Okay, the first episode threw me off a little bit.
Let's because maybe not everyone knows what the Watchmen is. It's characters based off of what DC Comics.
A DC Comics graphic novel.
Right.
And I didn't look up who the authors are, but the authors it would explain. It helps explain why the series is as controversial or political as it is, because there are crazy people criticizing it, talking about, well, this is a series based on a comic. Why it's got to be political? It's a series based on a comic. Why it got to be racial? The authors of the Watchmen comic are communists. I mean, the original movie, which I actually didn't like the first couple of times.
I loved it.
You loved it.
I loved it. Right, and I watched the movie without even knowing about the Watchmen. I mean, I never read the comic or anything like that, the graphic novel.
Yeah, I had no idea that it was based on a graphic novel. I just watched it with him, and I thought, okay, I don't understand why he likes this so much. It's kind of silly, but okay, I give it a chance. I still don't like the movie all that much, but I do love this series. Mm-hmm. I think this is, and maybe I didn't like the movie because it was detached from a time frame that I was familiar with, because the movie dealt with the Cold War.
Yeah, it's of course it's an alternate universe,
right?
And the series borrow a lot from the movie, the timeline frame. And so what happened is that it was during the 1980s. And it's an alternative universe, so you could play with that. Nixon was president,
right?
Like you said, the United States and the Soviet Union was on the precipice of a nuclear war, and then you had this subculture of so-called heroes, and these heroes were like, I mean, they were part of society, but but this is not no Superman. This is not actually society hated them. There were laws against them, according to the movie. They couldn't wear their mask and all that stuff. Now the television series take place in our time, 30-some years after the movie timeline. Right. So you have a lot of if you did watch the movie, you would recognize a lot of the content or references, I should say. References towards events that happen in the movie. But what makes the series, first of all, is the writing and the acting. Shout out to Regina King, who is she's just getting better and better.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm glad that as a black actor, that especially female actor, that she has this prominent role. And I think, and this is one of the things that I have to give credit to with the streaming services now. It has widened the playground. So a lot of opportunities are happening for people who, if this was network television, Regina King wouldn't be there.
She wouldn't be. No. No, she would. There would be some other lead, even if the story were the same. First of all, network television would not carry this story.
No, they wouldn't.
Not the way HBO has done it. And that's been like the benefit. I think, and I do think it's a benefit too. And I don't ever want to be the kind of person that like advocates for any corporate anything. But I think that has been a benefit of cable companies and streaming services being able to produce their own content, because they're not under these constraints that networks are. So that, that they don't want to get, networks aren't going to get as political, or if they do, they're going to stick to a very they're going to stick to a cherry picked script.
Right.
Right. And of course, everybody they put on network TV is a size 2 with flawless skin and long flowing hair. And you know, and most of them ain't black. And if they are, they light bright. And anyway, so I think it's a great benefit that HBO has the money to produce this kind of science fiction, but political homage, and put the kind of characters in the roles that work and that are absolutely believable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it works all the way around. We must be boring, you guys. So let's go on.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, Felix on YouTube said, I thought Sunday nights would be your standard time slot. They are. Sunday nights will be our standard time slot. But see, Watchmen comes out on Sunday nights.
Right.
So we wanted to talk about this show before the new episode came out. And we just have our new setup, and we just really wanted to.
Yeah, we're just showing off. I mean, just we got this new equipment, so we're just showing off, y'all.
We all well lit and bright in here and all this kind of stuff. So real quick, I checked. The creators of Watchmen are Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, and Lynn Wine. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Wein. Alan Moore. Win maybe. Yeah. Alan Moore, he's a straight up communist. So it's so anyway, the first episode of this series on HBO caught our attention.
Well, and it was one of the most talked about premieres on social media, and though because of the way it started, I mean, it just shocked everybody.
And it shocked everybody because it highlighted, it didn't highlight, it dramatized an historical event that a lot of people in this country know nothing about. As you know, history is our thing. You know that's our thing. So I, not liking the movie, was not expecting much when I turned it on. He, loving the movie, was expecting everything in the world, but prepared to be disappointed because he loved the movie that much.
Right.
We're sitting there watching this thing like, the first episode, like, did they really do this? Did they really do this? And it was amazing to watch. Oh, by the way, we should have said they're going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen Watchmen and you don't want to know what happens, stop watching now.
Or do this. La, 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 la.
So the very first episode, the very first scenes open with a dramatization of the racist attack on Tulsa, Oklahoma, otherwise known as Black Wall Street. A lot of people in this country do not know that mobs of racist white people who were legit only mad. That you can listen to all the other excuses in the world. They're going to give you all kinds of other excuses. Oh, they thought that a black man raped a white woman. Oh, they thought that a black person stole this. No, white people were jealous and angry that after emancipation and after Reconstruction, or during Reconstruction, black people...
And after a couple of hundred years of slavery.
And after a couple of hundred years of slavery, black people, when left alone to live in community with each other, we built our own thriving, successful communities.
Self-sustaining.
We built our own self-sustaining communities. We built our own businesses, our own schools, established our own churches, our own banks, our own markets. We were everywhere we were. We created self-sustaining communities. And in many of those places where white people were around us, because there was nowhere in this country we could go where they weren't white people, some white people were pissed that black people actually did economically as well or better than they did.
It was the better part.
It was the better part. Yeah. They were jealous. All this stuff that they made up, a black person, they heard that a black person raped a white woman. No, they had been looking at...
Yeah, because you can't kill black people based off of them making better money.
It
has to be rooted in some kind of, what they considered some kind of a moral justice cause.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, you have to continue to perpetuate the narrative that black people are a bunch of savages that need to be put down like the dogs they are.
Right.
So you make up this narrative, oh, look at these uncontrollable black men raping our virginal white women. But all of it, almost every single instance of, and there were lots. There was a whole summer called Red Summer, where there were these kinds of acts of racist violence against black people and black communities across this country. Tulsa was such a major event in this long history of racist white people destroying black communities because, and I'm so glad they captured this in the opening scenes. People make a big deal, and I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't commemorate it and it wasn't a horrible terrorist attack and all this kind of stuff, but people mistakenly say that 9/11 was the first time that the United States was attacked, you know, from the air. No, it wasn't. Tulsa, Oklahoma was. It was the first time the destruction, the bombing of Tulsa was the first time that a bomb was dropped on an American city from an airplane. The first time in
American citizens, because it was in 1922.
Exactly.
And by 1922, we were technically given citizenship. So I mean, so you're talking about American planes, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, but I think these planes came from the American Army Corps Reserve or something like that. But it was a military plane, because this was right after World War One.
Right.
So it was a World War One era military plane that was dropping bombs on American citizens. I mean, they weren't slaves. I mean, they were American citizens by 1922. And after the aerial assault, then came the invasion of the Klan and of armed whites that were just killing black people. Now, the reason why, now going back to the Watchmen, and they showed all of that. They even showed the plane bombing black citizens.
Yes.
They showed the terror. It was very well directed, very well acted, and it really would, if you didn't have any emotions and shame that this happened in our country, then I don't know what's wrong with you. But it also showed how black people just didn't just sit back. They were World War I veterans, and this is historically true too. That fought back. I mean, you know, but in the end, 300 black people lost their lives, and the Watchmen, again is in this alternate universe. So even in that universe, this had happened, and so the series basically plays out from that event. And basically that, you know, from that event, the racist, where in the movie it was based upon the Cold War and the politics of that, where in the Watchmen is based upon the politics of racial tensions that exist, and how some of the Watchmen, especially Voight Beat, or the smartest guy in the world, and what he has done and created in order to manipulate events, sort of like we say about 9/11, and how, you know, we believe that certain events were orchestrated and have been in order to further another agenda. Well, you get this in the Watchmen too. You get this in the Watchmen that there was also events like 11/2, where the United States and Russia was at war, and then this event, the psychic event, came, and you know, it's later known that it was manufactured, but the people don't know that.
Right. So, you know, they're under, excuse me, this illusion that was manufactured to manipulate or to control society. The narrative is that this event was manufactured to bring people together after this, you know, this great, in order to keep society from going toward the destruction that it was going toward. So, you know,
it was to unite them. It was to unite humanity by using fear in order to present another enemy, you know, as opposed to each other. So, but as the events unfold, And throughout the series, there is the racism. You have Nixonville, where a lot of the so-called poor whites live at. There is also, I think one of the things that really tickled my fancy was that black people got reparations.
Right, and they're called Redfordations.
Right, and the reason why they call reparations because Robert Redford is the president in this time and in this universe, and he's one of those, and he was picked, as we will learn later on, but he was chosen to basically bring about a utopia, in America. And so, but this is the thing, black people and black people got reparations, right? And this causes even more tension between whites and blacks, right?
Right. So when we're watching that episode where they explain where you finally get what Redfordations are and what all these references are about, then I'm thinking, okay, this is some really messed up narrative about why we shouldn't do reparations. But that's not what it is. And you have to watch this series to understand how they peel this, this narrative back, and what you think they're saying, they're not. So just really quickly though, on this,
quickly because we're boring. They run into the hill. They're like, oh man,
I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about.
I thought it was going to be fire and brimstone, and they're talking about some series that I ain't
no, but fire and brimstone tomorrow maybe, but no, today we're just going to talk about. But actually, this series we think is actually pretty important, because I think it does raise the issue of the need to address, to be honest about, and to address the violations of human rights, not just the wrongs that were done to black people, but the violations of human rights that were committed against black people by this country, in this country, and the need to address those issues, to be honest about them, and to to provide redress for them. That is a conversation that is brought up again in this series.
Yeah, but it's also, I believe, I also believe that this is actually you would never see this again. I mean, like you would never see this type of content years ago. You would never, black people getting reparations. The fact that Tulsa, the tragedy in Tulsa was highlighted. That type of honesty, I think, when it comes to the black experience in this country, we would have never seen on network television or even early cable. That was subject matter that that Hollywood stayed away from.
Exactly.
But now you're seeing this willingness to actually delve in, and I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of younger people that's getting into writing and production, and what you're having is this millennial takeover, not of old Hollywood, but I think that what you're having is because the streaming services have broadened the playing field. Netflix paid billions of dollars for new content. And what it is that, they're not afraid of the Mavericks coming in now. Right.
Right. Because, controversy sells.
Right.
It does. I mean, we got a viewer right now on YouTube, Kevin Dykema, who says he doesn't have HBO, but now we got him hooked. Now he wants to watch the show. We're not telling you that you need to pay HBO, Kevin. We're just saying this really
get a fire stick.
And we don't even want you to give Amazon your money, but this is a really important series. We do think it's very important because I think it opens up the conversation about okay, so what happens when we do get reparations? Is everybody going to like it? Of course not. Everybody's not going to like it.
Oh, you're going to have some of our white friends that what happened in one of the episodes when we say, hey, you guys want to go out to lunch? It's on me.
Right.
Must be nice having
those reparations.
Reparations, ain't it? And you might have some white folks who be like, well, Jackie, why should I pay for lunch? You got reparations. Why don't you treat?
Right. I mean, that the kind of exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of honest take on how some people are going to respond to material justice being delivered to the descendants of the victims
Right.
of these terrorist acts, because that's what they were. That stuff is going to happen. Not everybody's going to like when we get reparations. There's going to be some resentful, hateful, angry ass white people. And our response to that is, what's new?
Right, exactly.
What's new?
Well, and the fact that, we ain't even got a dime, and all of a sudden they're making up excuses why we shouldn't.
Exactly.
Well, if you get reparations, what about the Native Americans? What about the the indigenous little people of such and such and such? Now it's like everybody now. You feel the plight of everybody.
Right.
But again, not to digress, but the Watchmen, or it's like you said, it's not the Watchmen,
Right.
it's Watchmen. But they deal a lot with those type of dynamics. To speed this up, the last episode, which I thought was very, and it shows you how history can be whitewashed.
Oh,
all right,
yeah.
because there is this series called The Minutemen, which was the precursor of these heroes. Now, these were the first mass heroes.
Right.
And it started with this one guy named Hooded Justice.
Right.
Now, of course, Hollywood made Hooded Justice a white guy. But we know from the last episode, we said it was spoilers. We know from the last episode that Hooded Justice was actually a black man.
Right.
And he was actually a black man that survived the Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Who survived, right. And he not only survived Tulsa, but he survived a lynching.
Yeah, he survived. Well, the lynching was turned him into Hooded Justice.
Right.
And so we understand how racism in this society, and even in that society, also the universe, doesn't want black heroes. Because it doesn't serve the mythology of America. There has to be a John Wayne. There has to be, so to have John Wayne be black, it just upsets the narrative of everything that we've been socialized to believe about each other. So we see that, and we also see that that the Klan, which I thought was very interesting. They had this storyline where the Klan had this mind device. And so black people were so-called rioting, all the whites believed that this was something inherent in blacks. On this show, we talked about Stamp from the beginning. We talked about all of the negative beliefs about black people that have been perpetuated by those by others. Right. And so what happened is the Klan has this mind control device. Where they were showing in black movie theaters, which brainwashed black people to attack each other. It
was like subliminal.
Right,
what
subliminal
is it called?
messages.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened was they had one of these incidences, and the black and Hooded Justice, who was also a black New York police officer, he goes in to find out what's going on, and he asks what's happening because you see all this chaos and stuff. He said, "What else?" You put a white guy said, "Well, what else?" You put a bunch of animals together, and this is what happened because of the belief that black people are just inherently violent. Right. So he goes in and he sees this one black woman who looks like she can't harm a fly. She starts crying and said that she kept hearing in her mind that black people were the enemy and she was supposed to hurt people. So she took out whatever weapon she had and she started committing mass murder. When they found the projector and the cop / Hooded Justice took it back. And it was this warehouse where they were making these messages. Right. And the first thing that this person said, who was also a cop, he's a white guy who was a cop, who was part of the lynching mob of Hooded Justice. And his message is this: black people are the enemy. You are supposed to hurt each other, but you don't harm white men, women, and children. Now, when you and I watched that, we took that message that we seen in there, and yes, it is. It's fiction. But we took that and we looked at how we exist in this society today. How black people, for the most part, are socialized. And I'm not saying we should harm white people, but we're socialized not to bring harm to white people. Right. White people are safer in a black neighborhood than you and I are. Yep. Because we're socialized. Nellie Fuller Jr. said one time that you know, we never pay attention to what white people are doing because we're too busy looking at each other.
Right.
And and if you're
Right.
black, you understand just what I just said.
Exactly. I mean, sit up some because
I'm sorry. I got too relaxed.
Yeah, I know. Just talking about the show and just all laid back.
Next, I'm gonna fall asleep.
So, I mean, we talk pretty frequently about how black people have been conditioned not to trust each other, right? But we will, you know, we trust white people. We trust everything white people say.
Right.
We trust everything white people say about us. We trust everything white people say about the rest of the world. We trust everything white people say about immigrants, about black people in Africa. Anything white people say, a whole lot of us trust it. But let information come from a black person, and we're like, I don't know.
Well, you look like me. You can't know nothing.
How much you know? I don't know nothing, so you can't know much more than I do.
I'm dumb as a brick, and you look just like me. So what could you know?
So when you're looking at this white man sitting at this table recording this subliminal message to be played in this movie
in the movie theater,
in a movie theater, in black movie theaters, I mean, we're immediately like, that is the social conditioning that black people get in this country and around the world.
But it's also,
from white supremacy and colonized.
But if you also want to broaden that, you can also include the fact of black people not from Tulsa. Black people could live in peace. And since then, and we said this on this show plenty of times, that black people have never gotten a break from trauma in this country. So you could take that and you can use that as an analogy for the drug wars.
Yep.
That we are always assaulted from outside. So those subliminal messages could be the flooding of crack cocaine in our neighborhoods.
Right.
It could be mass incarceration. But it always comes from outside.
Exactly. That's a great point. And I didn't even think of that. That's a great point. That here these folks are literally minding their business, enjoying their life, going to the movies, and you got these racist white people quite literally messing with their minds, getting them to kill each other. How is that different from anything that we have experienced in community in this country? Like you said, we've never been just left alone. And that's like what you see in this episode. The other thing that's interesting in this episode is not just how Hooded Justice had to pretend to be a white guy so he doesn't actually get lynched for real, completely, because, white people didn't want a black superhero. But he experienced the same kind of racism, only a kinder, gentler kind of racism among among the original Watchmen.
Right, the Minutemen.
The Minutemen. They recruit him. The leader.
The one leader, Captain Metropolis, he knew Hooded Justice's identity for real because he recruited him. Right. But he hid it from the other Minutemen. The other Minutemen didn't know that Hooded Justice was black. Right. And when he presented Hooded Justice, of course, the media didn't know he was black because Captain Metropolis, just like white progressives, he did all the talking.
Say it again.
He did
just
like a lot of white progressives, he did all the talking. So even when Hooded Justice was trying to tell them who the real enemy was, and he just shut it down. Oh no, it's Moloch, or Right. He didn't want to talk about the Cyclops, the Klan, and all. Right. So we looked at that, and we have to wrap it up after this. We looked at that and said, man, this is how we're treated a lot of times by white progressives. We sit up here and say, Black lives matter, all lives matter. Right. We need reparations. Well, actually, let's study this. Why don't we just give you some scholarships? Right. Actually, we can have specified investments, some tax credits in poor neighborhoods, and then, we need better school. Oh, yeah, but charters aren't that bad. We need the heat. We need our heating systems in Baltimore to be fixed. But there's climate change. You're not going to need heat after a while. There's plenty of heat. We need to have our own agenda where we can view the politicians that will have our agenda. It's better for you than burn.
or Hillary,
Bernie,
or Elizabeth Warren,
right.
or Pete Buttigieg.
Right. So this is what we see is this reminds us of that treatment that we get where it's a paternal or maternalistic relationship that we have with those who claim to be on our side. We know, you don't have to talk. We know what you want. We know what you need. You just sit over there like good little children. Dinner will be ready in a minute.
Right. I mean, but even among some people who claim to be, our biggest advocates, are because the relationship between the guy who is Hooded Justice and the guy who is Captain Metropolis, people, I don't want people to like whitewash that as just, that's a scandalous gay relationship. No, it's much bigger than the fact that these two men were gay, because like you said in the TV series I'm
not sure that Hooded Justice is because that's another thing. We know that Captain Metropolis is gay, but Hooded Justice is married and has a child. What I'm saying is that even sexual relationships aren't black and white.
Right. And that's a good point. That's a very good point. But the thing that I noticed was, even in the most intimate relationship, the guy who's Hooded Justice is like an exotic plaything for the white Captain Metropolis. I mean,
that's how it's been in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it's like even in these so-called, political movements where, they want black people to have a seat at the table. I mean, we're window dressing. We're there to make some of these people feel good. We're there to stroke their ego. We're their like exotic playthings. They ain't serious about repping us out in public.
Right. Or acknowledging the complexities of our humanity.
Right. We're just a thing to tickle their fancy at the moment, to get them through this election cycle, until they get bored, until they get elected and they get bored, they ain't got to deal with us no more. So, what else in this episode? Was that?
Well, I don't know, but yeah, it's a lot. I think that those were the main points about the Watchmen. We encourage you to watch it.
Yes.
And we may at times come back to the series because I think it's already been like 7 episodes.
Yeah.
So we don't have much left to talk about. And the Fire and Brimstone will come later. I understand you guys, but this is about Luqman Nation. We're very we delve into a lot of topics, and some of you guys have been with us a while. You understand that this is the first time that we've done shows on either movie or TV content that we find enjoyable. We hope you find enjoyable. But don't worry, Fire Brimstone is coming, and yes, Sunday will be our regular time, focus time. But like I said, we were showing off, and we thank for you guys who have joined us.
Thank you so much.
To delve in our geekdom.
Because that's all this is. It's just two geeks geeking out about a geeky show that we love.
Geeky show. And we have to feed that now and then. We have to feed that within us.
We know some of y'all are geeks too. Stop fronting, man.
All right, so we'll wrap this up.
And we hope you like our new setup. We're testing it out. We kind of dig it. And you get to see more of, right on cue, Brewski Luqman.
Well, he's only over here because I'm feeding him, that's why. It's the only way to keep him quiet, because I'm feeding him.
So, thank y'all so much for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Luqman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Luqman.
And look, as always, y'all be good to each other. Y'all be really, really good to each other. And always, peace, if you are willing to fight for it. Find the theme song, Jackie. Here we go.
You don't find the theme song.
It's playing. What, you gonna threaten? You threatening to sing?
I was ready to start singing.